Hey, how's it going? Hope you're good. This is a video about builds. I had a request from a guy called Yusuf. Hi Yusuf. He's a viewer of the channel. And he wanted specifically a build video on AOE versus Single Target that I use. First I was thinking, well, I'm not like going to say that I do the best build or anything like that. It's just what I use. But I thought, well, okay, he wants me to make a video, and I can basically tell you what I'm doing, and what works for me, and if it's helpful, it's helpful. But I just want to put that disclaimer in that I'm not saying that this is the best way to build for a wizard in Neverwinter. It's what I do. It's what works for me. Okay, so just that underlies everything that I say from now on. Okay. All right, let's get going. Okay, first we're going to deal with boons. I'll just go through each category separately. First we're going to deal with boons, right? So pretty much the most important boon I think that I've ever had is the marathon runner boon. The reason being is that speed is really important to me. I want to get out of the way. I want to move around fast. I think most people agree that that's important. So pretty much for the boons, I always go for that one first if I can. I just fill up whatever I can fill up until I get up higher. But the ones that are really important in the lower tiers are and I never used to think they were important, but they are important, are the specific damage against specific kinds of enemies. So the cultist power, you want 5 points on that. Demonic mastery for damage against fiends, you want 5 points on that. Dinosaurs, you want 5 points on that. Necrotic mastery, resistance versus undead, definitely want that. So they're important. These ones, the power ones and the critical severity, they add anything that adds 0.2%. I don't really go for. I added these because I had to, but you're talking about 5 points for 1%. So I don't think that really makes much sense. Things like the healing ones, I think they're quite good. So I've got lingering medicine 5 points, lingering fortification 5 points. So when I use a potion to top myself up, I'll get a bonus basically, and lingering power. So those ones are important. So the ones, and the hit points are pretty good as well. So the ones that I've gone for are pretty much the hit points, the run speed, the damage against the different kinds of enemies, and the healing ones. Okay, that's what I've done here. For the advanced boons, I did constant control because I want a little bit extra control bonus. Being a wizard from the old days where we were control wizards, it's really important. It's not just important just to do damage, it's also part of your role, in my view, to control everyone and to sort of like move the mobs around. And the more control power you have, the bigger the mob that you can move around, otherwise they'll resist you. You can only do the very little ones. So I would put definitely 4 points into that. I've got 4 points on recharge speed, obviously. Action point gain I have, and then stamina regen, because again it's important to move, and I've got a few things in my build which help me move around like fast, because I don't want to get hit, because I might be squishy, but at least I can get out of the way really fast. And it's between getting one-shotted and jumping out the way. So it's important. Anything to do with speed is very good in my mind. So I do that. I didn't do outgoing healing. I didn't do forte. I didn't do incoming healing. I just did stamina, action point gain, recharge speed, and control bonus, being a wizard. All right. Then for the top ones, I've got Deathly Rage, 3 points into that. So basically I'll get 6% critical severity from that, 6% power, and 6% combat advantage. Skipping that one, that's a defense one. Bloodlust, and if it was between these two, I think I went for Bloodlust first. Action point gain is very important. Extra attack. Actually, anything damagey, you want damagey. So Bloodlust. Life lessons I have 10% chance on at will to do the following. So I might do some extra damage here to the enemies. Blessed advantage, which gives increases my recharge speed by 5% per rank for 10 seconds. So they're the boons that I've got, right? So I'll just go over that again. I've got like the hit point boons. The first one I would do would be always the speed bonus. Right? The second priority I'd do would be these damagey ones against the different, like 5, because you're dealing with 5% damage as opposed to 1% power for the same amount of points. See what I mean? Or 1% critical severity or 1% combat advantage. It's a waste in my mind of points. So these ones are good value because when you put 5 points in, you get 5% extra damage. So I always go, that one is a priority. The speed is my first priority. And then secondly, I would probably do the healing potion ones because you get that extra bonus of extra power, extra hit points, and that continues to heal you. So they're good value. I think they're good value. And then the hit points, when they on their own, they're not that great. There's 1%, 2%, 3%. But when you do all 4 of them, it's 4%, which can add up. The more hit points you get and the higher the rank you get, the higher item level you get, that's percentage. There's a flat percentage of whatever you are. So the more hit points you get, the higher this bonus will get as well. Okay, and then I've just started adding to this. So I stopped adding to the hit point one for a bit because I like the idea of this quality of life loot radius boon, which I didn't even know was there. So that's the boons anyway. Okay. Okay, here we have our feats. Pretty straightforward. I've got Smouldering Recovery. Now this is AOE, right? The boons are the same for the AOE, for AOE or single target, doesn't matter. For AOE feats, I've got Smouldering Recovery. So when my Smoulder deals damage to an enemy, I get extra action points. Okay, so that's important. Then I've got Glowing Flames, which the Smoulder radiates to other enemies. So this is multiplying. Everything that I've got sort of enhances everything else. So for AOE and mobs, you want to do as much damage to as many as you can. All right. So this one does gives you action points for Smoulder. So you definitely want to add Smoulder, right? Now the flames radiate and they do extra damage to enemies around the enemy, the target enemy. Then Shatter Strike, I think it was between Chilling Advantage, yeah. Shatter Strike. When you deal damage to a frozen target, you have 20% chance to shatter them. Shattered foes are stunned for 5 seconds and take 300 magnitude damage, which is considerable damage. That's okay. It was opposed to this one. Your cold-based at-will encounters and daily powers that apply chill now also apply Rime Fire Smoulder, but I'm already doing Smoulder anyway. This one, Critical Burn, your critical severity is increased by 10%, and Smoulder now deals more critical damage. Right? And then Directed Flames, Smoulder and Rime Fire Smoulder now deal 25% of their total damage when applied or reapplied, but they no longer deal damage over time. Okay, so that does it does quicker damage rather than damage over time, which is important when you're doing mobs and they're all dying very fast. You don't want damage over time. It's going to be wasted. So you want to do it all at once. So, okay, so they're the feats I use for AOE: Smouldering Recovery, Glowing Flames, Shatter Strike, Critical Burn, and Directed Flames. Okay, for class features, I use Critical Conflagration. So when I critically strike with one of my powers, I add Smolder to that target. So anyone that I crit, it adds Smolder to it, okay? Which is probably why I don't have this one, okay? Because what happens, when you add Smolder to a target, right, you get Rime Fire if you add Chill, okay? So I'll go into that in a minute with my powers, but my powers, my at will is Chilling Cloud. So if I'm hitting them with the at will, and there's a couple of encounters that add chill as well, I'm going to be adding Rime Fire every time I crit. It's going to add Smolder, then it's going to turn into Rime Fire. Basically, what Rime Fire is it's Smolder, but it just keeps going, right? And you can refresh it. So the graphics turn into like a blue flame instead of a red flame. But so you want to add Smolder, and then you want to turn it into Rime Fire, and then every time you add Chill again, you don't have to re-add Smolder, you just keep refreshing the Rime Fire over and over, and it's just doing damage over time, all the time, and then that Smolder is radiating out to enemies around them, right? Okay, and then this one, Combustive Action. When your target affected by Smolder dies, you gain 5% of your maximum action points. I think this is a pretty important one to me, because I'm adding Smolder to everyone, right? This one here works with this one here. So, Critical Conflagration, when I critically strike one of my targets, right, it adds Smolder. Then when they die, I get 5% of my action points back. So I don't use any of these other ones, I only use this one and this one for AOE. I don't care about Frost Wave, I don't care about Swathe of Destruction, increasing Smolder damage, I don't care about, because I don't care about Orb of Imposition for control, or Chill, or Area of Effect, or, I mean, you might think Area of Effect might be good, but I don't use any of those, or Arcane Presence, no. I just use Critical Conflagration and Combustive Action, because they both work together. I add Smolder with a crit, and then when that target dies, I get some action points, 5%. So I can let off my daily much more often. Okay, so they're the feats and class features for AOE. For single target, it's a little different. Critical Conflagration stays there, but I move it from Combustive Action over to Swathe of Destruction, because basically a boss is not going to die until he's dead, and then the battle's all over, so we don't care, right? So that one won't work on a boss, because they're not going to die. So put it on here, increases Smolder damage by 10%. So every time I crit, I'm adding Smolder still on a boss. But when the boss takes damage, Smolder damage is increased by 10%. So it just ups the damage, that's all. Okay, so for feats, Smouldering Recovery, Glowing Flames, because it was between Icy Veins, foes within 20 feet of you. I mean, like, there won't be any foes within 20 feet of me. It's a boss. It's a single target boss loadout, so it's fine. It doesn't matter between those two. Shatter Strike stays, but then I changed these two. If you see on the AOE, they're both up here, right? For the single target, they're both down here. So I do 1.5% more damage per stack of Chill, and having Smolder or Chill on a target reduces its damage resistance to my damage by 5%. Having Rime Fire on target increases this to 10%. Okay? So I'm adding Smolder, and then when I'm adding Chill, it's turning into Rime Fire. So in the mechanic, which you always get anyway, your fire-based powers add Smolder to your target, which deals damage over time. If the target is affected by Chill, it gains a Rime Fire aspect, allowing its duration to be refreshed by Chill effects. So that's there all the time, you don't have to choose that. So the fact that I'm critting, Critical Conflagration, I have to keep on both loadouts, right? And I just turn that Scorpion off. He's giving me the shits, sorry. Okay, yeah, you're adding smolder when you crit, but for a boss, you just want to increase that smolder damage. It doesn't matter when they die, because they're going to die at the end and then it'll be over. You won't need your daily anyway. Okay. All right. So that's the 2 class and feats for AOE and single target. Okay, here we are with our powers. For AOE, anything I add for my build is AOE really. So on icy terrain, I use icy terrain. It depends on where I am really, but for normal loadout, I use icy terrain, but I'll use it on tab, and that is because I can put it anywhere I want, up to 80 feet away. I can put it far, I can put it over myself. If I want to use it for a bit of protection when they're surrounding me, I can set it here, make them jump onto me and run up to me, and then I can jump out the way and leave them on it, and it'll hopefully do some damage and slow them down. But if I'm in a party and I want to help with some mobs somewhere, I just find where the mobs are and I just do them from a distance. I don't have to aggro them from close up. So that was my first power. But if I'm in Tyranturos, for instance, I'll use shield because I want to be tanky. So it depends really on the situation, but I do some damage with that a little bit. But it just helps me be more tanky. That's all. More able to take damage. So hang on a sec. So I use icy terrain on tab because I can throw it down anywhere. Fanning the flames will put smolder. So if you see there in the I can't point out with the cursor. If you see the added effect is smolder. So not only am I adding smolder with my crits from the feats, the class feature, but I'm also adding smolder with this particular encounter as well. Okay, so I use that on one. Fireball also adds smolder. So I've got two that add smolder. This adds a stack of chill, and then Conduit of Ice also adds a stack of chill. So I have 2 encounters that add chill and 2 encounters that add smolder. So, and I've got one AOE which is adding, one at will, which is also adding chill as well, when I'm just hitting them with my at will. So I've got two smolders and three chills, basically, and that all makes the smolder, keeps refreshing it over and over again. The point of that is that the damage over time just keeps going and going and going, so you're doing more and more damage without having to re-hit them all the time. As long as you keep adding chill, I mean, you are hitting them again, but you don't have to keep adding smolder, basically. So it's just refreshing itself, and that this feat here, Glowing Flames, is radiating that damage out to next to them as well. So, and if they're standing on icy terrain, then they'll get Rime Fire because that's adding chill as well. So, and this one here, Conduit of Ice, that adds a stack of chill to everybody as well. So if you're hitting one target, and then it's the one that does the little whirlwind around everyone. So if you hit that target, then the close ones to it, not too far away, but the ones that are close to it, they also get a stack of chill put on them. So if they've been crit, then they'll get Rime Fire. So it all helps. It all helps with each other. Okay. So they're the powers, and then the 2 powers I always use on both AOE and single target are Ice Knife on one. Well, that's my single target daily. If I've got one target I just want to hit, I'll always use Ice Knife. And if I've got an AOE mob situation where I've got multiples and I want to control them and do some decent damage to them, I'll use Arcane Singularity. I don't bother with Ice Storm. I've never bothered with Furious Immolation. I really don't like that one. Oppressive Force is okay, but it doesn't do much damage. It says it does a bit of damage, but it's really not that great. So it's got a great animation, but I don't use it. So I use Ice Knife and Arcane Singularity on both loadouts. So just to recap again, I use Icy Terrain on tab, throw that out where I need to. Fanning the Flame Fireball, and Conduit of Ice. And all of these are AoEs. It's a true AoE loadout because all of these will do multiple enemies at once. None of them are single target, okay? This is single target, but that's a daily. But I'll be using Arcane and Singularity anyway, okay? So that's AoE. For the boss powers, I use Raven Feeblement on tab, because on tab it gives a 10% bonus to my damage. It says added effect increases target's damage taken from magical and projectile attacks, which is mine, right? Magical attacks and projectile attacks would be rangers, would be clerics with magical power. Anyone that's throwing it from a distance is projectile. Not anyone, no, sorry, hang on. Anyone, projectile, what's projectile? Projectile is basically ranger and who else? I'm not sure if a rogue would be classed as a projectile. Anyway, you can work that out yourself. But it gives 10%, without going too much off track, it gives 10% extra damage to anyone else, for me and for anyone else that is ranged, pretty much ranged fighters that hit from a distance. So if you've got magical attacks, and that's bards as well, clerics, bards, and so forth. So I always have that on tab to give that bonus damage buff. And then basically the other ones are the biggest hits that I can find. Chill Strike is one of my all-time favourites. Icy Rays does a lot of damage if you hit the same target with two shots of it. So you hit them twice, you just go bang, bang. So that one. Entangling Force, it's either going to be for me Entangling Force or Repel, because they're both similar in damage, from what I can remember. However, Repel will upset your party members. Anything that knocks someone around, especially your melee fighters like your barbarians and your rogues and stuff, they'll be just about to hit somebody and you'll smash them from 80 feet away, and then they'll go whizzing off into the distance, and it will really upset your party members that rely on being up close and in their face to hit them. So I don't use Repel. I very rarely use it ever. I know you can push them off ledges and whatnot if you want to, but I never bothered with being smart like that. I just use Entangling Force, and it does a really nice disable anyway. So if you've got good control powers, a good control bonus, you can get them up in the air. Most of the mobs you can get them up in the air. They won't resist it. Okay, so that's my single target powers. So Raven, and obviously the same dailies as before. Ice Knife and Arcane Singularity. So I've got one for each situation basically. Even if I'm doing a boss, if I see a bunch of mobs or ads come along, I can set that daily off and sort of like try and finish them off and pull them off other people. So if there's mobs coming up to the boss and there's a bunch of people around the boss trying to hit them, I can set that off to the side and it'll drag them off the boss into the middle and hopefully kill them when they go up in the air. But it at least gives them some breathing space in the party. So even in a boss loadout, I'll be keeping that up. And Ice Knife is the best single target one we've got. So, all right, so that's Raven Feeblement, Chill Strike, Icy Rays, and Entangling Force. And that's the powers I use for the AOE and the single target. Okay, at Wills, all I use is Chilling Cloud pretty much. I see a lot of people using Magic Missile, because they think it does more damage. It might do more damage, I don't know. But again, this is what I use. This is my build that I'm sharing, and I use Chilling Cloud almost exclusively as my at will because it adds a stack of chill. That's the reason I do it. The damage I think is pretty comparable anyway, but it adds a stack of chill, so therefore it refreshes the Rhinefire. So that's why I use it for the chill. Also, I do not like the animation on Magic Missile. It's Avatar goes all over the place. It's like spinning around and doing all this weird stuff. It's a lot smoother, and I like the animation better for Chilling Cloud. So that's partly the reason that I use Chilling Cloud all the time. But the main reason is just that it adds chill. So it slows down enemies. They walk slower. The more you hit them, the slower they run. So if they're chasing you, like you're slowing them down a bit. And also, as I said, it acts in tandem with the Rhyme Fire that you want to refresh. So if you're hitting them with Smolder, with all those Smolder powers, as I just said before, then you can use Chilling Cloud and refresh that, turn that into Rhyme Fire, and keep refreshing it just with your at-wills. So that's why I use Chilling Cloud. I've always used it. It's my favourite at-will. For the secondary at-will, I always use Ray of Frost. I've never used Scorching Burst. I always use Ray of Frost, and pretty much it's just to finish off a mob. So if I've got it won't work on a boss, but if you hold it down, you get 6 stacks of chill popping up if you hold it down long enough. But for most mobs, if you've got decent control power, you can freeze them with it. So I'll be using Chilling Cloud all the time, and then as my secondary at-will, if I've got like one left and they've already got some stacks of chill on them, I'll just swap over to Ray of Frost and just beam that onto them. Hopefully they'll freeze, and then Shatter Strike, where is it? Shatter Strike will take over and do extra damage, and they'll just explode. But yeah, I use this fairly infrequently, Ray of Frost. I don't use it that much. But when I do use it, it's just pretty much when there's one left over, one single enemy just left behind in the AOE mobs, and I'll use it. If I want to get 6 stacks of chill up very quickly, I'll use it as well, and just like put it on and then go back to Chill Strike again. Sorry, Chilling Cloud. But yeah, Chilling Cloud is my main at-will. So that's the at-wills. Okay, for mount powers, I pretty much use opportunistic. This is up to you, pretty much what you use. You can buff pretty much you're going to be wanting to buff what stats you haven't got. So like whatever stats you need to buff up, you're going to be using things like your mount, like your mount power here to buff it, as well as your enchantments and stuff. So it's really up. There is no right or wrong, and like I would change this if I needed a different stat to be boosted, obviously. But at the moment, combat advantage is the one that I prefer to boost. So I use opportunistic. That's the one I use. For AOE, I pretty much always use Vortex. I've been playing around with where is it? What's the name of it? I've been playing around with Deep Crow Shriek. I just leveled it up not long ago. It's a really old one, but it roots the enemies, and it gives you combat advantage. It doesn't say how much combat advantage, and also increases your damage by 15%. And I think you can get these really cheap as well. But I've been playing with that. It's a very small area of effect, so it's not the best. Like, it doesn't catch everyone, but I've been playing with that recently. But most of the time, what I'll be using is Vortex. There's 2 different Vortexes, so be careful. One is Vortex of... where is it? One is the Omen of Despair one, Vortex of Despair. And then there's the carpet, the Flying Carpet Vortex. They're not the same. They're not the same. Vortex of Despair is targeted at location and linked to location. So when you let that off, it'll be going off in the one spot, and they can run out of it. Whereas Vortex, it's linked and targeted to the enemy that it hits. So if they start moving towards you, it will follow them, and it will also affect the mobs around them as well. So out of the 2, this is the superior one to use, because it will follow them around. The worst thing you want to do is let something off and then they all run out of it and it doesn't do anything. I mean, it's a waste of a whole minute that you've got to wait for the cooldown. So Vortex of Despair, I wouldn't be using that unless I absolutely had to. And I think the Guppy School is the same. I think it's linked to location, right? Vortex is linked to the target, so I go with that one. So that's the mount powers for AOE. Mount powers for single target. I use Bat Swarm because it's the best one for DPS that I have. There's lots of different ones you can use. You've got lots of choices. You can use Big Bees. You can use the Toad. You can use that's for melee damage. You want something as a wizard. You want something you can use from a distance if possible when you're hitting a boss, because you don't want to be up in the boss's face to let it off. So I just use Bat Swarm. It increases my damage. It increases everyone else's damage. It's easy to get. You can get it from the Reaper store and everything. If I wasn't using this, I'd probably use, let me think. Depends on what you've got, really. I've never used Tunnel Vision because I've got the Toad. For a boss, for mobs, I'll pretty much always use Vortex. But we're talking about bosses, right? Let me look. The fireball's not bad. It's not bad. It does 2,000 damage. Not everyone can get their hands on that though. It's something that you can get, other people can get. Grand Inspiration is good for a party buff. I've used that. I used that before in parties. It gives a buff to heals and damage and everything. Giant Toad Tongue Lash probably would be that one. Eclipsed Armament's a good one if you want to debuff. Increases incoming damage to the target by 15%. That's not bad. The beam ones and that sort of thing, they're all in a line in front of you and you have to be close anyway, so I wouldn't be using that. Loth's Gift. Yeah, not really. That's for minions. Look, Black Eye Storm, Big Beast. They're the ones that I've got. Yeah, I use Bat Swarm. I'd probably use, if someone else was using it and they said don't use it, which is very unlikely, I'd just say, well, I'll use the Toad then and just do pure damage. But if someone else is using Bat Swarm, you just wait for them to use it first, and then use it, and then refresh it after theirs is worn off. Just use yours, so it's constantly up. So it's not a problem. Anyway, so that's the mount powers for AOE and single target. Okay, Insignia Bonuses. Again, it's up to you. This is what I do. I use 3 Warlords for my companion bonus. So I'll get, when they're all added together, 22% more damage out of my companion. Okay, so this is good if you've got a high level damage companion, like a companion that does good damage, like Regis or the Pseudo Dragon or the Black Scorpion, or or whichever is higher up on the list. If you go and have a look at Aragon's lists of single target companions and AOE companions, you can see the general damage they do. So this will be more effective the higher the damage the companion does in the first place. Okay, so I've got 3 of those: Warlord's Motivation, Warlord's Motivation, Warlord's Motivation. Got that stacked 3 times. If you're using an active companion, yes. Obviously, if you're using an augment companion, they don't do damage, so you'll be choosing something else. In that case, I do have an augment loadout. I've changed them. I've got Executioner's Covenant. I lose some defensive stats and get aggressive ones. Whenever I receive damage, this is Yeah, augment AOE. Yeah. Whenever I receive damage, I do some damage. Enchanter's Hex is really a must for a wizard who's got control powers, so you have to have one of these, and it doesn't stack, so you only need one. Knight's Condemnation, whenever you use combated damage, you are healed. That was just the best of that I could find. This is for augment, right? And Master's Precision, increase critical strike when my stamina is between 25 and 75%, which is a lot, so I get extra crit, right? So that's replacing the Warlords, the normal AOE, because obviously an augment does no damage, so you're going to be wasting your time with Warlord's Motivation. But normally I use 3 of those. I use Enchanter's Hex, and then the third one is just reduced defensive stats and a little bit extra of offensive stats, okay? For the insignias themselves, just Brutality, Mastery I like because I get control bonus. But whatever you can grab your hands on, really. Brutality, Aggression, I think critical severity. It depends on what stats you need to boost up as to what insignias you use. So I pretty much leave that up to you. I heard Aragon say basically always use Brutality in everything, but sometimes you don't have brutalities on hand, all of them. I don't, so I use Mastery. They're the ones I ranked up earlier, like for a while, because they've got control bonus and accuracy, so they're good for a control wizard. But yeah, whichever ones you use, it's really up to you. I mean, I think it's more important the actual bonuses you're using are more important than what the insignias are, because the insignias, tripping over my words, sorry, the insignias are really to boost up your own stats, much the same as this one is, the equip power for the mount. It depends on you and what your stats are doing and which ones you think you need to rank up, because basically your stats need to be the same as your item level. Okay, so my crit's just under my item level, but everything else is over my item level, and that's at least where you want it. It doesn't have to be green, it doesn't have to be orange, it can be just white, but it just needs to be pretty much over the top of your item level. So it confused me for a really long time. I didn't know how it works, but pretty much what I'm seeing is that you want it to be higher than your item level is in order to do OK damage. Okay. So yeah, that's the AOE thing, and I think the single target's the same. Yeah, single target's the same. Same bonuses, because I'll be using an active companion that does damage on bosses as well, so that stays the same. So yeah, the only time it changes for me is when I do an augment loadout, and I'll very rarely ever use one. I've only got one in case someone says, can we all turn our pets off? We don't want to do damage to the boss. If you're at the end of Lair of the Mad Mage, for instance, and you don't want to trigger the scorpions, you might want to use an augment for that, rather than have your companions keeping on hitting the boss and triggering the electrified scorpions. But I've got this as a just in case. I don't use it very often at all, if at all. Okay, so my AOE and my single target are the same, okay, for those. So that's mount, Insignia Bonuses. Okay, for mount collars, the ones I use, this is pretty quick. I use encounter powers do 5% more damage, so that's a sturdy crescent. Encounter powers bonus is better than at wills because they're higher. If you're doing 5% of at wills, it's 5% of a lower number. So you want to do encounter powers over at wills, just my opinion anyway. So I do 5% of encounter powers rather than the lower number. So it's encounter powers, critical severity, wayfaring barbed, stamina gain. Again, it goes along with the reinforcement kits that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Stamina gain increased by 3%, so that's a supportive crescent collar. Rough astral diamonds. You've got to pick gold or astral diamonds. I think I've got both. So slot that in depending on what you want the most of. We all need more diamonds, so go for that one. So that's Practical Regal. And Unified Crescent, which is movement speed. Like as you know by now, I'm really into the movement. I want to continue moving. I want stamina gain, I want movement speed, I want to be fast, I want to be quick, I don't want to be slow, I don't want to get caught in the red zones, I don't want to get one-shotted by anything. I want to be able to get out of the way really fast. So anything with movement or stamina gain, I'll be going for that every time. Okay, so that's the mount collars. Okay, for gear, that'll be whatever you've got really. I mean, I've got Master Dugo Mercenary's hood. The three that I really think are important to me are this one, because it gives me 10,000 accuracy, and then below 50% health, I get 20% recharge speed. They're very expensive though. It's about 5 million, something like that. But I highly recommend it if you can get your hands on it. And for anyone that's doing magical damage like a wizard, this is really a pretty solid choice as well. The Scintillant Amulet. The item level is low, but the damage is high. And I've tested it out as opposed to Pendant of the Crimson Oath, for instance. See, it's got like 4,000 item level as opposed to 1,800, and yet I do more damage on the Scintillant Amulet. The reason being is that I get 6 int. So int is your intelligence, which is your magical damage boost. It also gives you control bonus as well, but your magical damage boost is int. So this is the only set that I know that gives int to both pieces. So the Scintillant Sash gives 3 int and 3 charisma. Charisma is recharge speed and forte, but it gives 3 int to that, and it gives 6 int to that. So it gives 9 int intelligence just for these two pieces. And you'll see a lot of high DPSs wearing these pieces, even though they're low item level, they will be using them. So I highly recommend those two, and I highly recommend this one. And they're all very expensive, just bear that in mind. But pretty much you can earn your 100,000 every day from doing your random queues, and within 10 days you've got 1 million. And if you want to wait a few months, you can probably afford it. So, you know, or buy some Zen, I don't know. But if you're just playing free to play, I would just save up my astral diamonds until I can afford each piece, and just slowly buy them. So, and use them all the time. So they're the three I think are must-haves. The other stuff is stuff that I got from Tyroturos up in Thay by doing the mini bosses. If you need to get blood marks, you'll get these pieces. These ones were from the campaign store, I think, and these were drops. The rings were drops from heroic encounters when you do the heroic trains, and these were drops from the heroic encounters as well. Okay, so I've got, and AOE single target's the same. Same pieces, I don't change them for AOE or single target. So head, Master Dugo Mercenary's hood. This one, Aegis of the Crimson Crucible. Arms, Gauntlets of Infernal Ascendant. Main hand, Abyss Touched Orb of the Thayan Zealot. Talisman of the Withered Thayan Zealot. I mean, I'm never going to do the master content, and I don't even want to do the advanced content for that trial. I hate it. So these are the best ones I'm going to get. And Striders of the Gilded Hunter. Scintillant Amulet. +1. Get the +1. Don't get the normal one. Just get +1. And it's a tiny amount of stats more, but it's worth it. Just get that one. From the auction house. You get this one, people make them, right? So you get them from, I didn't say, you get them from the auction house. Go in the auction house and search Master Durgar or Scintillant Amulet, Scintillant Sash, and people make them in Masterwork. You can still buy them. So, Hollow Maw, this is a ring. Anything with critical strike, critical severity, anything aggressive, you want to be equipping that. Unbroken Seal, combat advantage, crit severity. You don't want the split stats. Okay, you can jump out the way, you can pack a potion, you can do whatever, but you want as many aggressive stats as you can get on an item. You don't want the ones that have got like deflect, but they've got critical strike and deflect, or deflect severity and power. You only want aggressive stats. So it's worth paying a little bit more to get the one that's just got the pure aggressive stats than just getting a cheaper one and saying, well, you know, I'll just have that. So I always do that. That's what I do. And that's what this video is about, like what my build is, so that's what I do. Scintillant Sash. Mark of the Novice. And Mark of the Novice Pants. Okay. So that's the gear for my normal unscaled loadouts, but then I have a different loadout for scaled content. The reason being is that when they scale you down, they do it in a really weird way, and so the higher you are, the more they scale you down. It throttles your damage. So there's a sort of sweet spot somewhere down. It's around, I think, 80 something K item level, somewhere where you'll do more damage than if someone's like 100. So what I do, I scale my item level down by lowering some of my gear. So I keep my Mastered Hood. I've tested it out. I've got rid of these and tried other things, and I don't do the same damage. And at the end of the day, I want to do as much damage as I personally can. So I keep those the same. I keep the rings the same, and I keep the pants and the shirt the same. But I do change the armour, the arms and the feet and the weapons for scaled content. You want the Astral Raider's coat, which gives it's a lower item level. Hang on, let me have a look. Yeah, it's 3550. 2200. Alright. Astral Raider's coat, you can get that from Wild Space. Gain 2% combat advantage for each enemy you're engaged with within 100 feet. Very good for AOE because you're dealing with lots of different mobs that you're engaging with at once, so you'll get extra combat advantage. And item level's not important because I'm trying to scale it down, so this is a good choice for me. And then the two Astral Raiders items, which are really important, almost vital when you're doing scaled content. So scaled content is when you go into a dungeon or a run or something and you see your item levels turn blue, it means you're getting scaled down. Your maximum hit points will reduce, your damage will reduce, and it's meant to make you in line with the lower people, like the people that are really much lower, like 50,000 item level and whatever, so that it's a fairer playing field and you're not just killing everything and then not getting to have a fight, which is understandable, right? So when you go into this scaled item level, this piece will give you extra 20% damage bonus. And that was their way of saying, well, this is the way scaling works, and this is your consolation prize. So it's pretty essential to use this, the Astral Raider sleeves, and you can get them from the shop in what's the name of that ship? Good Ship Lollipop. No, the Wild Space. Go to the ship where the main hub is and go downstairs into the basement. You can buy it down there. And then the feet will give you 20% damage reduction on scale content. So they both work together. Alright. And then any weapon set that's lower than your normal weapon set. So I normally would have 3,300. This is 800, and it brings my item level down quite a bit. Also, I did the sunset slog. It was very hot. It took a long time to do. But it gives me 10%, like the old-fashioned ones give you 10% bonus on your at-wills. And on the offhand will give you an extra stat, or two bonuses to stats. You get like 5% stamina regenerate. You can change it around. You can have forte, control bonus, control resistance, action point gain, crit severity. You can do whatever you like and roll for them and set it the way you want. So beforehand I had the Mirage set operating, which is a solid choice for a lower set, but they nerfed it recently, so I went and got the Sunset set from Barovia. And like I said, it's a big slog. It takes a long time. It's not easy to do, but I like it. And it gives me 10% extra damage in Barovia during Nightfall. So when I'm doing Castle Ravenloft, I get 10% on top. And it gives you movement speed as well. But here, basically, whatever set you've got that is lower, that lowers your item level, so that when you're getting in scale content, you won't get throttled as hard. That's my advice. That's what I do. Okay. So that's for AOE scaled. And then I think the only thing that's any different in boss scaled is this coat here. When I damage or heal my target for more than 10% of my maximum hit points in a single blow, I gain critical strike and critical severity. So that's 2,600. That's 2,200. So we're talking about 400 item levels, nothing really, it doesn't matter. So, but I just thought that this is good for mobs because I get combat advantage for many enemies, which is mobs, but this doesn't apply for single target. So for single target, I'll be using this one instead because it gives me extra critical severity, which is important. Okay, so that's the gear for the unscaled and scaled loadouts. Okay, now we're going to talk about armor reinforcement kits. And a lot of people don't bother with these. Some people don't bother with them. I always do. They give you a little bit of extra bonus, item level. They'll give you, what's the item level for them? I think it's, hang on a sec, I'll just check. You can find them in the auction house. So type in major, you want a major one and you want the +1. So I type in major stam, major power, major whatever it is you want. The item level is 44, so it's really, really small. But and they're not that expensive. That's 44 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 times 44, I don't know what that is, my maths isn't very good, but it's a little bit extra item level, but you don't do it for the item level, you do it for the stats. So you get like 880 for the major +1s. So for my setup, I always have stamina regen on the right hand side. So on the neck, 2 rings, and the waist will always be, for me, stamina regeneration. I need pretty much what that's about is that if I keep jumping around a lot like I do, and I want to get out of the way and I want to jump and get on the opposite side of them and get combat advantage, create my own combat advantage, I want to just move a lot. I can't keep jumping around. I can run, but I can't keep jumping around if I'm out of stamina. So the quicker the stamina comes back, the more I can jump around. So I've always have these as stamina regen, a boost, these 4. On the left, it depends on what I'm using at the time. It depends on what I need to boost at the time. At the moment, I've got a power 1, 2 power 1s, a critical severity one, and which one's this? Critical severity. Okay, so I've got 2 critical severities and 2 powers. It depends on what your stats are. I could probably take one out actually, and put in a different one. I'll probably do that in another day or two. Rarely check them, to be honest. But these always, yep, stamina regen, and these left hand side, whichever ones you think you need to boost, pretty much. If you've got like, because it's like 800, 1600, 3000 stamina, 3000 item level, just for these ones. So it's worth doing. A lot of people don't bother, but because they say I'm going to change the gear anyway. But I always put them in as soon as I get a new piece of gear. It's my first priority is to put the reinforcement kits in them. So yeah, that's the reinforcement kits. Okay, for artifacts, it's a contentious issue with me right now, and I've even put out a comment or a request up in the Discord at the moment to try and get them to change it. For many years now, we've had a problem where when the artifact's cooling down, you can't change the loadout until the cooldown's finished. That doesn't sound that bad because it's only a minute cooldown or less, depending on when you let it off. But believe me, when you're with 5 people or 4 other people that really want to get moving and hurry up in that dungeon, and they're waiting at the boss, every 10 seconds is torture, waiting for, they're waiting for you to come, you're waiting for your cooldown so you can change your loadout, and it's no fun. So pretty much my artifact is the best I can do for both. It's the best I can do for AOE and single target, which is the Dragonbone Blades. Again, not everyone can get their hands on this anymore, I don't think you can get it now. But pick something that you can use which debuffs the boss, but also does damage, does decent damage. Like the Werven Blades would probably be okay. Where is that one? I don't know if I've got them on this character though. No, I don't have them. Anything which works for both AOE and single target. So pretty much it does multiple damage, but it also does good damage on a single target and or debuffs the target as well. So I'll leave that up to you to decide what you use as an artifact. I will say that sometimes, and it's the same for AOE and boss, I use Armageddon for the stats, critical severity, accuracy, combat advantage. I use Assassin's Knife for critical severity, accuracy and combat advantage. And I use Night Flame Sensor for the power, forte and combat advantage. So they're all aggressive. They all have aggressive stats. I try not to have anything that's got defensive stats. But for my active, I have no choice really at the moment. I have to, unless I want to make everyone wait and myself wait to have the cooldown happen, and then I can change my loadout. And a lot of people just have the one loadout because they don't want to wait, I think. But I use this one, Dragonbone Blades. I'd recommend anything, like I said, that does damage to multiples for AOE, but also does the same amount of damage to the boss. The only problem is you're going to have to run up to the boss, get close enough to set it off, and then jump back again. So it's a pain in the ass to do that. So yeah, I'm not happy about it. But if I had a choice, I'd probably use these for AOE. Why not? But for bosses, I'd be using a load of different ones. I'd be using Soulsight Crystal, or I'd use Realm Engine Core, or use Mythalai Fragments. Very good. Halisters I could use. Yeah, I'd use single target on a boss. Probably, I usually go for, if I've got time and I don't have to worry about changing, I usually go for Mythalai Fragment. Or Halisters, you could use, I usually use Mythalai though. But as it stands, I use this, so that's the artifact that I use. And it would be the same for my augment as well. Oh no, okay. That's right. I would only be using the augment in Lair of the Mad Mage at the moment, And when I'm in there, I use Sparkling Fate Emblem, which is just for that boss fight. So I let that off when the last blast is about to happen. So we hit all the towers, you finish everything, you hit the boss, and then you go and hit the towers, and then just before he lets the big blast off, I let this off at the same place that the tank lets his stuff off and the healer let their stuff off. So you've got like an extra layer of defense. It gives you 5% defense and 5% crit avoidance, so it helps. It helps everyone survive that blast if they're a bit squishy. So, but yeah, I can't really advise much more about artifacts because, yeah, that's the best one I can use. So that's artifacts. Okay, enchantments. I started off pretty much with Celestial in everything. Celestial. In Garnet in everything. Garnet, 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 and Garnet. Garnet in utility gives Forte, right? I don't know what else I can use. I haven't really looked into it, so this is my loadouts, this is what I use, my build, whatever, so I use garnets and everything. I only sort of relatively recently changed to an Onyx because it gives me combat advantage and crit 7. I was overcapped on power, so I pretty much, I would recommend starting with garnets on everything, rank them up to as Celestial, as high as you can get them, so you can give them to your alts as well, and then when you overcap your power, because power is a really important stat, when it goes orange or whatever, so I think, I'm not sure if I put that in. No, but I've got something that raises my power elsewhere. I was going into the orange, so I lowered it down by putting an Onyx in. For combat, most people will tell you to use Lightning Flash because it gives you the accuracy and crit, but in my case, this is specific to me. I've got this Master Durgo Mercenary, so it gives me 10,000 accuracy anyway, so I don't need any more accuracy than I've already got. I'm fine, right? Plus, I know it's down at the moment, but I'll also be using potions, and it's always up. It's always up, right? So, oops. So I don't really want to use the Lightning Flash. I like using Cursed Burn because when I use it, I see the ticks, and it ticks over and over and over and over and over, and I get all the little ticks of damage. So this is my preference. That's what I use. In the bonus slot, I always use movement. I don't care what else there is. I've got a recharge bonus, but I never use it. I think I used to use it when I first upgraded it, and I just missed the movement speed too much. So I always use Celestial Movement in every single loadout that I have. It's always there because I always need to move faster and get out the way. Another thing about movement as well is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's so. It's not run speed, it's all movement. So you'll be throwing out your encounters and your at-wills faster when you've got a movement speed bonus, which equates to more damage. It's like proxy recharge in a way. Does that make sense? Because the faster your avatar is moving, the quicker the animations are, the quicker that they're throwing out and finishing and going to the new one. So if you couple that with high recharge, you're just doing more, like especially with your at-wills. So I always have movement. I want to move around. I want to jump around. I want to get out the way. I want to fight as fast as I can. So I've always got that. So they're my enchantments. For overloads, I use Rage of Flames always. Gives me extra damage, 5% damage bonus. And recently started using Sword Coast Tactician, which gives me extra damage and extra power and extra combat advantage. If you can't get these two, before I use these two, I would always use a red one. And they're really cheap on the auction house, I'll show you. Okay, so for one, you're looking at 2,000 diamonds, which is nothing. All right, and the other ones are similar. Right, they only last. I think they last 2 hours. Yeah, but they're very, very cheap. So they're very cheap and they're very effective. So they'll give you 800 crit save and 600 additional damage. So go for those. The black ones are good too. Black Dragon Glyph gives Aspect of Acid, gives 900 additional damage, and it stacks. It's a 25% chance to set that one off. The red one is a 25% chance to set that off. I usually use red and black if I'm not using these two. But yeah, this is what I use at the moment. Rage of Flames and Sword Coast Tactician. And if you can't use those, just get the red and the black dragon glyphs. The blue one's okay. It gives defense though. It gives, if you can't get the others, get blue, but it gives extra defense and you don't really want that. Whereas the red one gives extra critical severity and the black one gives extra critical strike. So they work really well together, the black and the red. Okay, so that's my enchantments. And companions, last but not least, companions. I tend to be using, and it changes, but I tend to use a companion that will do crowd control. Any type of crowd control, I don't care, as long as it, because as a wizard, that's one of your strongest features that you can use to your advantage. You've got the control bonus inherently in your build, so use it. So you can use, sometimes I call him Henry, the Intellect Devourer, because he does a really good stun on everyone. And like it's very frequent as well, so he'll stun them and stop them in their tracks. And he does decent damage as well. But
we will hunt.
You can use Regis if you want to do damage, pure damage.
Leave this one to me.
You can do Regis because he does good damage. He's a bit slow to set it off, but ultimately, when you're in a run, he'll bump you up to the top, or towards the top, just from his damage alone. Especially if you're using the warlords, 3 warlords. So this is what I mean when I said before. You take a high damage level companion, and then you add the 3 warlords on top of each other. A 4th one isn't going to do much. It's diminishing returns. So if you have one, it's whatever it is, 8% or something. You add a second one, you don't get another 8%. You get 4% on top. Okay, and then you add a third one, you get half again. So if you add a 4th one, it's really not worth the extra slot, taking up that extra slot. You're better off using something else to get some value out of that slot. So 3 is the most that you should ever use, really. But use 3. But that's what I mean when you use a high damage companion. It'll work in hand with these warlords' motivations. So they do even more damage. So they'll be doing like 22% more damage than they normally do. And on top of that, there's the Lyra's Bell as well, which adds extra damage to the companion if you really want to buff it even more. It's the Bell of Alacrity, I think. No, that's Recharge. Empowerment. Let me have a look. Yeah, Bell of Empowerment. Increases your companion's damage by 30% for 30 seconds. So you can get this for 10,000 diamonds, put it in your belt slot, and it'll increase the damage even more. So if you want to go down that route, you can do that. But as far as just any companion goes, I will usually choose one that does, for AOE, either, if I'm in a group party and I want my damage to be high, I could choose Regis because he also gives a bonus for recharge. But I will go for I'll go for an AOE one, like a crowd control one that does that pulls them around and stops them in their tracks. Another good one is the Iron Golem. I don't think I've got him in the list. I think he's in my non. Let me have a look. I called him Pumper, that's right, Pumper. This guy, he does a really good smash on the ground, which also stuns everyone. And he's pretty good. And he also does hit points as well. So if you want to bump your hit points up, he's got an equip bonus for hit points. All the golems do, I think. So for companions, pretty much for AOE, you'll be going for something, if you do what I do, you'll be going for something that does crowd control. So for me, it's the...
I am Wolfclaw, Dragon's Bane.
So he pulls them around, he stops them in their tracks. That's what I want for AOE. For, I know, went on a bit long in that one. For single target, I will always use the Scorpion because it gives constant combat advantage to everyone for a boss, no matter where the boss is. But it's not so important anymore because more and more people have it. So I'll often go into a run and find someone else is using it, in which case you can leave it on because it does really good damage anyway. That's fine, but I don't think it stacks. I'm not sure. I don't think it stacks though. So I'd probably use instead Pseudo Dragon because he gives combat advantage as well. You can use anything that basically, for a single target, anything that gives combat advantage, damage boost is good. Or the Spine Devil is good. It's a bit expensive, but the Spine Devil also does a buff to your damage, as far as I know. But my build, I use the Spike, I use the Black Death Scorpion all the time. For their equipment, I was just using get your Celestial Companion enchantment, like rank it up to Celestial as quickly as you can for extra damage again. I was just using the hang on. It's so effing annoying. I was just using the ones from Mount Hope now, and then I managed to have one of these drop from the boss in Tyrannosaurus. But you're talking about 400 item level. It's not really. That's not that important. Honestly, it's not that important. You're dealing with 400 item level and 300 more stats. Like whoop-de-doo. I mean, I guess if you had 3, it might make a little difference, but it's a bragging rights more than anything. So don't worry too much. Just go to Mount Hope now and get the molten ones. Get those ones. And what else? That's the companion for the AOE and the companion for the boss. Oh yeah, the equip powers. Okay. Just let me get rid of him, hang on. I just can't stand him going like that all the time. Okay, this will be up to you what you've got, okay? But what I have is I've got Golden Cat's Instincts for extra combat advantage. That's costs a shit ton of AD to get. So I don't know if you can get it or not. If it's on the, I don't know if it's on the, even on the auction house now, hang on. Yeah, it is. Golden Cat. 4 million. 5 million. It's a lot. Icosahedron Stone for speed. You can actually get that one at the moment, as it happens, in... Where is it? It's in the paid track. They don't bring it out very often, but sometimes they bring it out in a pack, and it's in the campaign at the moment. You see down there, I can't swish around it with my cursor because I'll lose it, but you got the Armoured Bullet, Dragonbone Golem, Commander Tyrannosaur, and then Icosahedron Ironstone. It's really hard to get. You can't get it all the time, and I don't think you can ever buy it in the auction house. I don't think. Let me have a look. Icosa. Well, there's one. There's one, and it's 24 million. So yeah, it's very, very hard to get. So I would recommend getting that if you can. So I have that for speed in all my loadouts. It'll be in every one. Neverwinter Knight's Discipline. Anything here you want that increases damage, pretty much. Like anything that increases combat advantage or direct, any flat increase to damage, percentage increase to damage is the way to go, rather than a chance at something. If it just increases it straight away, that's the way to go. It's better than stats, put it that way. So Neverwinter Knight's Discipline I have in all my loadouts because he increases damage by 9%, over like all your damage. I have this for speed, 9% movement speed. And I have Golden Cat's Instinct for combat advantage boost. And the Minsk bonus, the bigger they are, because you get up to 9.8% damage against strong enemies. So that's any mobs that you're encountering. If you get like stronger, like bigger and bigger ones with the pips on the top, and they get more and more pips over their heads, it does more damage. It increases your damage against those as well. Acute Senses is combat advantage. So again, I've gone with the combat advantage bonus route. For AOE, Acute Senses is the same. Bigger they are is the same. Golden Cat's the same. Icosahedron is the same. And Neverwinter Night's the same. So all these ones I have are the same. I was using Spiteful... Presence for a long time. It's a very, very good one. It comes from the Blaspheme Assassin, who is also expensive. But she gives a 50% chance on companion power use to apply, and it's a little skull that comes up into the buff bar up here, and it triggers all the time. I think it's more than 50%, to be honest. It comes on and on and on. It's always turning on, and it gives you extra 7.2% additional damage and increases your critical severity. That was the one I was using in this space, but I've just changed it to Netherese Warlock's Wisdom because it gives me at Celestial 9% damage extra, and it's all the time, so long as they're not facing me. But most of them are not going to be facing me. So, and I don't need the extra critical severity from Spiteful Presence anyway. So I'm wasting it if I get it. So for my build, but I would advise to use anything here that increases damage, and some speed, pretty much. So combat advantage or just flat damage or anything like that, just slot those in if you can. And the only difference between AOE that I use and single target in the companion bonuses is I use Bateries as well. Because obviously that gives you at Celestial 14% damage against a boss's increase. So again, it's more damage. So it's damage. You're a DPS, your whole role is to do damage. So like I've got two roles. I've got, as a wizard, I want to control and help with the mobs. But when I'm doing a boss, I just want to do the extra damage and just like help kill it. So that's the only one that I do differently there. Okay, so I think that's everything. Let me have a look at my list. Yep, that's the lot. So, alright, well that's my build. That's the way I'm set up. So, hopefully that's helpful. And there you go, Yusuf. That's what you wanted. That's what you got. Now I've got to try and dub it into Turkish. So, good luck with that. I'll do my best. I think YouTube can manage that somehow. So, alright. So I'll put this together, post it up, and there you go. Alright, so if you want to see some lives, subscribe to the Arcane stream and you get notified when I go live. I try and go live 6 nights a week. Sometimes I have a day off because I'm tired. I try and do, you know, every day except Fridays, but last week it's been weird. But yeah, I do 5-6 days a week at least. Streaming for about between 2 and 6-7 hours, depending on what I'm feeling like that day. So if you feel like you want to get notified of those streams and come along for the ride, subscribe and you'll get notified. Okay, all right, take it easy. See you in the next stream. Bye.